even though if he has a seizure and has to come off the water, there's no dispensation for that. He doesn't get any sort of recognition. He just gets the no points, no anything. So we just kind of say stuff it and do it anyway, don't we? And you're still beating them, aren't you? And grown adults.
Yeah. And back to your point, they said no. I said yes.
Yeah. He races with adults. What have we been looking at?
So we've been looking at buying a new boat that I will be able to beat the adults in, which I beat one of the class leaders, and he got really annoyed at me, but in a good way. He was like, "Oh my God, Will, you've beaten me again." But he was like, "Well done. Would you like a drink after?" So he gave it 5 minutes and it was all good again.
Yeah. Because we're starting to grow. Now that we're growing, we're having to go into a whole new sector, which is young adults and adults. And again, we have to go through the whole, why are you wearing that special life jacket? Why have you got that dot on your sail?
I had that at the Worlds, and in the end the race officer threatened to kick him out of the whole league and that he wouldn't be allowed on the water again. There were some nasty people, but people have recognised that it's fine, it's normal, it doesn't matter. It is a normal thing.
It's just different.
It just makes me slightly different, but in a good way.
And
it's a good thing.
Actually, you can even, despite all those, because his equipment can be quite restrictive when you're sailing a dinghy at like so many knots across the sea. But regardless of that, you're still going out there and beating them. And actually, you're not bothered anymore, are you?
No.
You're not
bothered anymore. They don't faze me.
We just got to go through it again. But again, that's what we're saying about your website and stuff. Those journeys, seeing other people's journeys is so important. It certainly has been for us, especially in the early days, because it allowed Will, when Will's always been very inquisitive, haven't you? So what happened was, as soon as he got a diagnosis, you can imagine what Will did. Regardless of all the people saying don't, Will Googled everything. And so he was reading about some, and there are some really challenging people. We're very lucky. We thank God that we have come through this so well. But you know, when you read some of the other stories, that can really bring you down. But reading about what you can do and all the successes, when you look at the others and doing, you know, our young man who's done his sponsored walk and just around his garden. I won't say his name because I know but you've got all those young people that are doing those things and those journeys is so inspiring, even for Will as well. And seeing that just makes you want to go on, you know, having those discussions and going, yeah, well, we've done sailing, we're going to do windsurfing now. We're going to try
kite surfing, and then maybe doing a jet skiing course.
Yeah, I'm going to be fleeced. I'm going to be bankrupt by the end of the summer holiday. Will's found a jet skiing course that he wants to do, and I'm like, really? But it's about those challenging the norms. And I think one of the most interesting things Will said is about, actually, it's made you look at how's it made you look at life?
It's made me look at life in a different way, that actually I may have this issue, but this issue doesn't faze me.
And we're going to get on with it.
And we're going to get on with it, and we're going to continue with it, because it hasn't made me... It's made me feel differently about life, but it hasn't made me feel like in a box. It hasn't made me feel in a box, not being able to do anything because I need to stay safe and I need to be rolled in bubble wrap all the time.
Which is what other people see.
That's what people see. They see, oh, you need to be really safe and you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't do that. You can.
You just got to be safe with it. But I think what we're saying is most 14-year-olds are still laying in bed at, you know, midday and hanging out and just trying to get on with life. And Will's wants to get up, and as he said, I just want to make the best of what we're doing. So he gets up and he has something to do every day. We're always, you know, okay, well, what's happening today? Well, today I want to go and do this, and I want to go and achieve this. And we're really naughty. We cycle as well. We've worked out we're not allowed to cycle, but we go on the pathways
and the cycle path, so not on the road.
Absolutely not on the road, but we're cycling it through parks and things like that. We keep ourselves safe. We've got I was going to say PPE, but it sounds like you've got your face mask on. But we go through parks, and we've got our helmets on and things like that. And just having that I think that's the other thing, is that exercise. And Will's got really into cooking as well, haven't you?
Yeah, but I'm not allowed to cook.
Yeah, but that whole understanding his diet and making him feel better, because again, he got into that stage where he's spending so much time in and out of hospital. He was eating lots of rubbish that was bad, not great for you, were you? And refusing everything else. And again, I think he was kind of feeding the sadness. And
mood eating.
Yeah. And so one of his GCSEs is going to be food technology, so he can understand, and he's done some amazing stuff. If you look at his Twitter, you'll see that he's knocking out some great stuff. I'm almost redundant, you know. But that's our whole new challenge, is GCSEs coming up, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And managing GCSEs. But I think, what would you say to other young people about managing their schoolwork?
It's going to be hard, but you can push through it if you plan when you're going to do your homework. I know loads of people who do it the night before and get all stressed, but if I look at it and if I plan when I'm going to do it, so I say, like, on a Monday I do my English, on a Tuesday I do my maths, it makes it a lot easier, because you don't have to go, oh my god, it's due tomorrow, and you get all stressed out, because that makes me feel...
That's a trigger, isn't it?
That's one of my triggers, and that will make me feel really unwell. And the only thing I'm trying to focus on at the moment is staying well.
What did we do? What did we put up in your bedroom?
So in my room, I've had to have a little security camera. And
no, for school, I mean.
I've got a massive whiteboard in my room, so I can write down what I've got to do for school and when I need to do it by, and when I'm going to do it.
With lots of stickers and happy faces all over it as well, I think.
Yeah.
And we've got trays now, haven't we?
Yeah.
What do you do with your books?
So I've got loads of, like, a little filing cabinet that I put all my books in, so that I don't get stressed when I'm looking for my work. And I put all my work in little clippy folders so that I don't forget paper, because if I forget my work, I can get really stressed about, oh, I've forgotten it, what's going to happen? So my main goal is just to try and keep happy.
We kind of avoid the things that because Will gets quite embarrassed when he has his absence moments, or when he has moments where he kind of, how do you explain it, when people are talking? And
it's almost like when you go to a theme park and you hear everyone talking around you, and it's that kind of murmur. I get that a lot when people are talking to me, so I see their lips move, but I don't actually hear anything.
Thank you.
So
I can't really take it in.
So he can get quite embarrassed about that. So using all those little plans, those little tricks, those little bits on the board and bits in his bag, you know, his bag's always the first thing he does when he gets home. And just because it is exhausting. He's still recovering from the bleed itself, and it is exhausting. You're usually in bed by what, 7:30 of an evening, which for a 14-year-old is tough, and gets up about 8, but it works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it makes you feel less embarrassed.
It's anything to be well. At the moment, I'm doing stuff to be well. I don't care if I'm missing programs on the telly or anything. I want to be well.
So we come past the fighting against it, because beforehand we were, you know, up playing video games and wanting late nights and bits and pieces like that, and now you've got into a routine of actually, and we still have the naughty late night, don't we? And we still go out, and we're going on holiday, and we're doing all those things, but we try and avoid things that just stress you out. and do things that make you that remind you of all the things you can do.
Yeah, so like when I'm doing my schoolwork at home, some lessons that make me stressed I've just stopped doing because I want to be calm and well and focus on the ones that are really important and that I need to get good grades in.
And it's quite funny. Go on.
I was going to say, I think a lot of the adults can relate to that way of thinking, you know, not necessarily schoolwork, just on day-to-day tasks and work and things like that. So that's good advice.
His brain, what do we call it? Brain fog.
Yeah.
Like he'll arrive somewhere and he's not sure.
I have a lot of moments where I need, say, a pen, like a coloured pen for my work. So I'll go upstairs and then I've forgotten what I need. And then I'll go back down and I'll remember, and I just go up and down the stairs for about 5 times because I can't remember what I was going up to get. And then in the end I take sticky notes everywhere now so that I can remember what I was going to do.
No, but I don't have a Cavernoma and I do that myself, Will. So it sounds like you've got it.
but our whiteboard, we've got a big whiteboard in your room and we've got a mini whiteboard. And just we've got them scattered, and your TA does the same. And just those little visual prompts, because actually what we've understood from the neuropsychology is that his underlying intelligence is still there and storming, and he's still managing to be in top set maths and top set science, and but the processing part and the prompting part and the short-term memory is a bit bonkers, isn't it, at times? And the more stressed Will gets, the more bonkers it gets. So we just avoid those things, or we try and just, we can't avoid everything. There is always stuff, isn't there? And we have those moments, and there are always those fears, don't you? And you do have them. He's got a massive fear about, being incontinent at school, or having a seizure at school, that's really tough for you, isn't it? And those nightmares about what if it happens again. But what I think we've learned is, I think it was what happened when you had your last seizure at school. What happened? What did everyone panic? And
no one really cared at that time. They didn't not care, but they said, actually, go and sleep it off. And then I got up again about an hour later and they said, are you okay? And they gave me half an hour to come around, and then they sent me back to class and I went straight back into lessons.
What did your friends do when you were feeling unwell?
When I was unwell, they all came over to me and took me to the medical room whether I liked it or not, and then they left me there, and then they came and checked on me when it was break and lunch, and then by the end of it I was just going straight back out and seeing them.
And nobody
and
was
then going
bothered,
to lessons, and no one cared. No one really cared because they knew, oh, that's fine.
Which was a real change, because I think Will's massive panic was that everyone was going to watch him and see what happens.
At the beginning, I had to have a buddy with me everywhere I went. For every single lesson, I had to have someone with me. But now I have to have someone with me if I'm going around out of class time, but otherwise I'm fine, which has been really helpful.
Giving you back your independence.
I'm slowly getting back my independence and slowly getting back to normal.
I think that publicly, if you're in the public and you're at the park or things like that,
someone will notice.
So he's got his Medi Alert bracelet, and if he has a challenge, some people recognise it. I think what Will knows is that being alone is our biggest challenge, and that's where we need to just continue to have that support. And that can be tough when you're 14, especially when you've got an alert camera thingy going on as well. But we're kind of working on it, aren't we?
The new norm, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can kind of suck it up and get on with it and enjoy what you are doing, or you can just...
It can either define you, or you can define it.
Yeah.
So some people will be really scared and they won't want to go out, but you're probably going to be fine if you go out. There's a really small chance it can happen. So
But
you go for it.
But I think it took you a while to learn that, though.
It did take me a while to learn it, but once I'd learned it, it kind of took me out of the dark days. So I'm having less and less dark days. So I'm feeling better for it.
And just doing those sessions with you, those sessions where and I know that it hasn't just been those CaverFamily sessions, it's been those times where Joe's phoned up and just checked in with school and checked, just helped the logistics along the way that have been the defining moments. As I say, the most defining moment, I think, for us was we talked about earlier where we left the hospital and all of a sudden it was like, well, what do we do now? Nobody's here. There were nurses
I had to lose my bunk
him.
beds and
but nobody was checking him hourly and tickling his feet and doing the whole neurological testing.
I can't say I miss it. Watching you all right about midnight is not fun.
Yeah. But then we went to nothing, and it was actually finding you lot. There was a nurse that came around and gave us some details and said, look at these people, and it was finding you lot. And the most defining thing was Joe going, come on up, we've got a thing going on next week. Completely terrified we were, I can't lie. We've got a thing going on next week. Come on up. We'll get you a bedroom. It'll all be fine. You'll meet all these families. And we're like, jeepers, what are we going to do? Will wasn't even leave the room. He was in such a dark place. I'm not afraid to say, and I don't think you are, that Will didn't want to carry on. Did you?
I've had a lot of days of that at the beginning.
There were a lot of dark moments to the point where we had a CAMS referral. And things were really dark. And then we arrived and it was just like normal. They were like, go on in, out you go and have a game of football.
Yeah,
and
you can go and use the swimming pool now. There's one over there in the main area.
It was the kids and the families who had all just they already had their new norms. We didn't, but they already had their new norms. And they were like, yeah, of course you can do. He went off. Will went off. We had been with him like permanently in a state of ITU, if you like, and learning, because we had an incredibly fit, incredibly well world championship sailor one day, and then this child who'd had a stroke and all these challenges and could barely function and focus and doing a sentence together with all these drugs, and we had Kepra rage just to add to it, and we had the whole shooting match.
I managed to punch someone.
You did?
I managed to punch someone into a filing cabinet and then they fell on the floor.
I know. Not one of your best moments,
It was a bully who'd been bullying me for 2 years, though, so...
Okay, but let's not go down that road.
Yeah. We can blame the medication on that one, can't we?
Well, they did, actually.
My head teacher, my head of year was like, so, Will, you shouldn't have done that, but he has been bullying you for this so long, and you've been on these medicines, so don't do it again, but good.
I think the event that you were talking about, it was the forum last year, wasn't it, in Surrey, and we'd spoke the week before, and I said, just come on down, and you came up to the family room, and Will, I remember you weren't very happy at that point, but you came in, and I said to Mum and Dad, right, you can go now, bye, you go downstairs and go and get some information.
And then I met Noel, and we just walked off and had a chat with no one else, and that was me almost feeling normal again.
But we had to literally prize him off us to get him into there. And actually I think that worked both ways, because I was not prepared to I'd never done anything like this before at all. As I say, we had a fairly regular life before this, and all of a sudden getting thrust into this. And do you know what was the most amazing thing? People were just normal and lovely, and they kind of hijacked Will, and he went off with the lads, and they built an ambulance or something, a Cavernoma.
I still remember it now. It was a big cardboard robot ambulance. It's the biggest thing I've ever seen. And within 20 minutes I think you've made friends and you were off, weren't you?
And he went out and played football, and then people were just sort of going, yeah, you can do. Yeah, it'll be all right.
You can go over to the pool.
And having that special. Who did you have? Greg James. He was one of the. Yeah, you had Greg James in, and we went down and listened to him as well, just talking about how, you know, what that surgery pathway and all the other bits look like. And there was all these different rooms that you could have gone into. And again, that just having that difference, and somebody going, oh yeah, and he can go for a swim with the kids, it's fine. And all the other parents going, yeah, it's fine. And I'm having like, I'm looking for the brown paper bag to breathe in.
It was Noah and I's first time swimming.
Yeah, I'm looking for the brown paper bag to stop having my own moment. And actually, it's, again, it shows you, as long as you are careful, and I have to say that, and that is the big caveat for Will, because some people look at Will and think that we're being really not very, you know, supportive parents by allowing this to happen. Actually, we have had risk assessments written by the chair of sailability and the team at Great Ormond Street and at Southampton Neuro and at Paul Neuro, all contributing to it. He has to wear all this special kit. And again, he went swimming, but he went swimming with every child had an adult. I was absolutely drowned that day by children. But every child had an adult. And what you're showing, and what we need to see more of, is that you may not be able to quite do it the same,
but you can still do it.
But you can still do it, and you can just give it a crack, give it a moment of, you know, yeah. And I think that's what you need to. That's the way we work it now, isn't it?
Just to sort of, because we're drawing to the end of the webinar now, we've got another question from Judith. So she said, do you think an appropriate word is adaptation, both valid for doing things and feeling about things?
Yeah. Adaptation, adjustment. I think adjustment. There's that reason there's a legal term of reasonable adjustment that works in children's SEND. I'm a teacher. It works in children's SEND. But reasonable adjustment, what is reasonable? And that is exactly what we do. We adjust to make things equal. We don't make things special or better or give any unnecessary. It's about raising the bar so we're all standing on the same level. We can all, even if we've all got one eye over the bar, everyone has that same one eye over the bar, or everyone has that one. Not everyone's, you know, there's not one box, is there? There's not one box. What we've learned is we've learned it through Cavernoma, we've learned it through brain injury, we've learned it through epilepsy. This whole journey has been that all of you are completely different and your journeys are different, but it's about that motivation and we're all different but the same. Yeah, and it's about just keep going, even if that light at the end of the tunnel looks a million miles away. Every step forward you take reduces it to 999,100,000 miles, whatever. And that's it. It's about keeping that positive cha-cha-cha, isn't it? That's what you say.
Cha-cha-cha. Has anybody got any questions for Will before we finish up, or anyone?
I just wanted to say something, if that's all right. It's not so much a question, but it's just the charity I work for, technically or theoretically, will support anybody with a neurological condition, not just Cavernomas or people who've had bleeds or whatever. The point I wanted to make is that everything that you've been saying, Will, is so familiar to everything that other people have told us, regardless of what their condition is. That experience of leaving hospital with nothing except a really long list of things that you're no longer allowed to do. It's such a terrible position to put somebody in. And what your story shows really well is about trying to get back to a version of your normal that, you know, you can still do, or do the things that you wanted to do the things that you're interested in and that you're passionate about. Understanding that there are some limitations, but adopting a really healthy attitude to risk with you and your family. And it's just, I think that's exactly the right attitude. And that's what, you know, organizations like ourselves should really be all about, which is helping people like yourself, as much as we need to or are able to to find the things that you want to do and to make sure that, you know, the conditions are right for you to be able to do them. You've done such an enormous amount to readjust yourself to your condition and the things that you can do. The other side of this is that, you know, the world needs to come and meet you halfway and understand that, you know, these are your risks and they're the world's risks, and we all need to work alongside them so that the world doesn't collapse around you. You can still go out and have the best life that you want to have, understanding that, you know, sometimes things may go wrong or sometimes there are just boundaries. It's that second part of the experience, you know, the world coming to an adjustment to you that isn't really happening particularly well yet. And that's where, you know, organizations like us and, you know, all of the work that clearly Joe and the Cavernoma Alliance are doing really, really well, that's the contribution that we need to make. But your story is just a perfect example of readjustment, coming to terms, and, you know, and coming back into your life really as best you can. So well done, and thanks very much. I was going to ask as well what your next big goal is, but I guess that's jet ski. So good luck with that. That's going to be good.
Tall ship and jet ski, isn't it? It terrifies the life out of me as a mum.
I'm not surprised.
It still says that I'm allowed to climb the mast though, so it's all good.
Yeah, they were going, oh yeah, he'll climb the rigging. I'm like, I beg your pardon.
Over my dead body.
They're really keen. They have a medic on board. They take a medic with them anyway, and things like that. But they're really like, yeah, why shouldn't you? So he's going off on a challenge. I'm just going to spend the weekend on some sort of
week.
Yeah, I'm going to spend the weekend on some sort of Will's drugs, I think. Just at the thought of it. But thank you. I mean, I know we've waffled a little bit, but I think and gone off on a tangent, and that's sometimes what that's how life is for us. You does tangent, but actually it's been a difficult journey. We're nowhere close to the end. There isn't an end to it, is there? We all know that. We're grown adults. We're going to live with this forever. But the great thing is to know that there are other people living with it too, and getting on with it and doing the very best they can, regardless. And that support that we get from Cavernoma Alliance and other charities is just so phenomenal at trying to make people understand. Because when you look at Will, if you look normal, you are normal. I know. But people don't get it. They're just like, you know, even family members are like, what do you mean he's not well? What do you mean he's not well again? How can he not? He must be better now, you know. And the ridiculous things people say to you. It's toe curling, bottom clenching, we call it, bottom clenching. And it's you lot that are making it normal. And just those banners, Joe was saying that she's doing some work on the websites and stuff, and just those banners of saying, you know, these are the people's new normals. Because as I say, some of the most classically painful times have been where we've had to have an emergency admission somewhere, and some nurses come running along with these bits of paper going, oh, and this is what he's got, send him down for a CT right now. We're like, whoa, hold on, when you just slow down just a little bit, you know, that just an understanding by, we recognise there's a lot of rare diseases, but that understanding is so important, especially for a child. Well, even for a grown-up, it's no less important for a grown-up, but it's, you know, when you're sitting there in a bed as a child, it can be pretty freaky. And Will take some his own moments. It's really funny of going, actually, you're wrong, don't you? This isn't what it is. Yeah, you quite enjoy it.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah,
thank you for letting me do this.
Oh, thank you for doing it. Absolutely brilliant, Will.
Yeah. And Will, you know, everything you're doing, and, you know, we're here for you on the next stage of your journey, but just want to say probably from everyone that we're so proud of you, and also the awareness you're raising and what you're doing. It's amazing because you're helping everybody, you know, the children, the adults. You know, every time you go to a new event or you meet someone and you explain what a Cavernoma is, you're spreading that word a bit further. So keep going, and we're going to support you. You're going to do a bit on the website for us, and Will's got a Twitter account as well, so he documents all his journey. So if you're on Twitter, follow him because it's brilliant.
Oh, definitely. There's some bonkers stuff going on, and that will make you realise just what parents, the stress of the parents is. We're just like...
Well, I know you're on your way on holiday now. They're actually our Premier in doing this talk, so he's on his way to the Norfolk Broad. So have an amazing week, and thank you so much for giving up, your time to do this, and thank you everybody else for watching. And we'll look forward to next week's webinar. But thank you, Will.